I did not wake up planning to blow up the HOA meeting, but the truth has a way of kicking doors open. And when Sheriff David Crowley walked into the clubhouse reading charges in that steady voice of his, the live stream already rolling, our HOA president, Paige. Larrabee grabbed her keys, gunned her pearl-white SUV, slid across the wet lawn, and planted the front end straight into the fountain water and headlights everywhere. I stood there breathing like a man who had been holding a plank too long. And if you want to know how we got to that ridiculous splash, you have to know who I am, and how a clipboard turned into a weapon in Cypress Hollow, Missouri. My name is Grant Bishop. I build tables in a one-car garage that became a woodshop. I keep my own fence, straight, I pay my dues. I wave to neighbors who wave back without remembering my name. And for the most part, I believe in the simple bargain of small towns. You treat people fair, and they treat you fair. Right back. Then one Tuesday at 6:01 a.m., somebody pounded like a debt collector. I opened the door in socks and flannel, and there she was. Blazer crisp hair pinned so tight, you could bounce a dime off it, glossy folder at parade rest. Violation, she said, bins visible from the street. Unauthorized trailer community, the access obstruction. Then tapped my driveway like it owed her money. I looked where she pointed at the bins tucked beside my garage, at my little flatbed, covered with the exact kind of opaque cover the rules spell out in boring detail at a driveway that goes to one house mine. I said slow, I do not think any of that is right. She smiled without warmth and slid a form forward sign. This acknowledgement now, or enforcement escalates. I did not sign. I took photos. I told myself to keep it neighborly. 14 minutes after I sent a polite email with bylaws highlighted and screenshots. I got a reply that felt like a brick wrapped in ribbon. Your lack of cooperation is being documented and accrued daily. $500 for the trailer, $1,200 for landscape disruption, that my tires apparently caused by existing $2,000 for public nuisance when the orange sticker she slapped on my windshield showed up in a neighborhood Facebook thread and turned into a circus. You know what I mean. The kind of petty thing that gets legs online while you are just trying to go to work. I asked for a board vote she sent me minutes from a special meeting that my neighbor, Hank Morales, a reluctant board member, said never happened. And that was the first moment the ground tilted under me, when I understood this was not about a trash bin or a shade of green. This was about a person who liked power because it made other people small. Then the night work started. The side gate camera went black at 1:17 a.m. No wind, no storm, just gone. I stepped into the dark with a flashlight, found the chain cut clean, found a slick, wet ring on the diesel drum, found boot prints with a cheap star heel. The next morning, the portal had 2 new notices, with language like community risk and emergency access. And that afternoon, Paige walked past my yard with a measuring tape, looked right into my camera, and smiled like we were sharing a joke I did not get. That was the day I stopped reacting and started planning. My wife June is the steady kind, the person you want when the bridge is shaking, and together we turned our kitchen table into a little war room. I bought 3 cedar birdhouses and fitted them with tiny battery cameras that streamed to June's tablet. We mounted one in the maple by the gate, one on the workshop eaves, with a clean shot of the drum, one tucked in the ligustrum, by the walk where joggers pretend not to stare. I hit a GPS tag in the skid steer's engine bay, with zip ties and stubbornness. I mixed a bottle of ultraviolet dye into a 5-gallon can of diesel and left it just obvious enough to feel like luck. 2 nights later, The Maple Birdhouse pinged at 12:43. A guy in a hoodie slipped through the line like a ghost, snapped the cheap lock like it owed him past due, sloshed that dyed fuel into plastic jugs in the bed of a dented black pickup. I met him before he shifted into drive. I stepped into my headlights like I had all the time in the world, clicked on a small UV flashlight, and watched his hands light up neon blue cuffs, knuckles, little constellations across his skin. He tried to shoulder past me and bounced. I read his stitched name, Ricky, and said, "I do not need to prove you are bad at this. I need to prove who sent you." June hit record. Red dot. Steady. I told him the truth right now. You are looking at theft and trespass, and a homeowner with time, cameras, and patience, but you could walk out of here lighter than you walked in. He talked. Yeah, that happened. He said he did drywall at Page's. He said cash in an envelope. He said a friend of hers needed some problems, not for me, he said. Cut the gate, drain the drum. Keep the pressure on until I sold an easement for a future secondary access road the HOA would frame as public good. Then he said a name, Clover Ridge Ventures LLC, a developer I had never heard of. He signed the statement June typed, while the crickets sang Still Blue around the nails. We pulled the thread. June is a bloodhound with a coffee mug, and in a few hours of county sites and business filings, we found a consultant listed at Blue Meadow Partners, a name that looked harmless, until a wedding announcement from 15 years back surfaced with a photo of Paige smiling like a magazine. Paige Arnett became Paige Larrabee at the church on Elm. The consultant on the developer's paper used her maiden name. The special minutes were forged, the money ran in a circle. The person who held a ruler to my petunias was cashing a check for paving a road through my side yard. That truth clicked into place like a lock finally turning. Paige must have felt something move too, because the next play was not petty. A storm rolled in sideways lines, flickering wind shouldering the house and the birdhouse on the front walk, pinged through the rain. Two men, one looping a chain around the brick pillar at the gate, one climbing back into the truck, idling like a cough. I tried 911 dead air, June said. Do not be stupid. I kissed her forehead and was a little stupid anyway. I did not go for my pickup. I went for the skid steer, that compact bull with manners that starts like a dog hearing its leash. Lights on, bucket low. I rolled out slow and steady, not to smash to shepherd. They panicked tires screaming on wet pavers, chain grating brick. The truck fishtailed, found the retention basin at the end of the block, slid down the slick grass, and nose dived into brown water. Two burner phones floated like dead fish. I stepped in up to my shins and grabbed both round cold. In my sleeves, heart rate finally matching the engine idle. Sheriff Crowley came at first light. When the towers sobered up, took the phones, the statement, the clips, the fake minutes, the filings, and told me what a fair man tells you when he cannot promise speed for now. This is a report, Mr. Bishop, and we will do what the law allows. I wanted daylight people a room where Paige always had the microphone. The HOA meeting that Friday is usually 6 retirees and a treasurer with an adding machine voice, but word got around. Neighbors filled the chairs and the aisles. Hank sat at the board table with his folder and a look like someone finally told the truth in church. Paige smiled. Realtor Bright rattled through budgets, landscaping, pool chemicals, the small scaffolding of order that keeps folks quiet. Then said, new business, and the quiet turned heavy. I set my phone on the podium, hit go live, said for the record. And Paige leaned in with teeth and hissed, "Delete that feed." Hank cleared his throat without looking up. There is nothing in the bylaws that prohibits recording. I did not give a speech. I pressed play. UV hands glowing in the dark. Ricky's signed confession, the chain around the pillar in the rain. The special minutes on a screen, while Hank said no. "Sir, that meeting did not happen." The corporate filings, the registered agent, the consultant name lined up with the wedding announcement where Arnett took Larrabee. Paige tried to drown me in words. Slander conspiracy context. Then neighbors stood up. The woman fined for pink flamingos, the man who repainted his porch twice because the first gray was too blue, and their voices built a wave that rolled right at the podium. Sheriff Crowley walked in like a man who knows how a room shifts. Deputies at his shoulder folder thick, and read the warrant: conspiracy to commit theft, vandalism, insurance fraud tied to a bogus vehicle claim, filing false records, using a homeowners association as a criminal instrument for private gain. Paige ran. Papers fluttered. Door slammed. Engine. Barked tires. Slid. And then that fountain took the hit, like it had been waiting all month. Deputies opened the door, lifted her out. Cuffs clicked. I did not clap. I just let my shoulders drop, and finally felt the shape of my own breath again. People will argue about what I did. I mixed dye. I hid cameras. I rolled heavy equipment in a storm. I went live because I do not trust back rooms. Did I bait a trap? Maybe. But I did not start the fight. I did not forge minutes or hire a man to cut my chain or launder my maiden name through a consultant line. I just brought light, and sometimes light makes a mess before it makes anything better. The board resigned. Hank took interim fines were voided. Developer papers went under a brighter bulb. The easement talk dried up like mud after sun. I went back to my shop and sanded a maple top until my hands remembered what they were for. There is a faint blue smear near the door where the decoy can drip. It catches the 4 p.m. sun and looks like nothing until it looks like everything. If you were me, would you have paid the first fine and kept your head down? Or would you have turned on a little light and let the blue tell you who your problem really was? Tell me where you stand on HOAs, on power, dressed up as harmony, on traps and justice, and whether that splash was karma or carelessness. Drop a comment. Tell me where you are listening from, and if you ever had to choose between peace and truth. Yeah, I want to hear that story too.